The Euphorbia family, or the Spurge family, is a very interesting and diverse family of plants. There are tropical food crops, there are succulents from deserts and dry parts of the world, there are showy annuals, perennial shrubs, and even a few trees in the Euphorbia family. Well, unfortunately, there are also a few species of plants in this family that are somewhat weedy, like what we have down here in this gravel pathway. This is known as spotted spurge. It's very closely related to a plant called prostrate spurge, and you can see they have kind of a prostrate growth habit. Very low, very pancake-like in their growth habit, but they can be quite weedy. They pop up in thinly covered turf areas, flower beds, bare soil. You can see these again in the gravel pathway, and they're one of the classic weeds that pop up in cracks in sidewalks. So we're going to take the hoe and we'll hoe these out. We'll pull them out of the beds to make sure they don't produce a lot more seeds and become quite a problem. Well, Oklahoma has about 50 species of plants in the Euphorbia family, and one of those is snow on the mountain. Right here we have a snow on the mountain plant, and it is one of our native annuals in the Euphorbia family, and it is a plant that we see whenever there's disturbance. Whenever maybe someone leaves livestock on a pasture too long and the plants get overgrazed and the hooves kind of kick up the soil, or maybe there's some heavy equipment is working in the area and the soil is disturbed, we get some of these annual plants that sprout and are very heavily growing in those areas after that period. And snow on the mountain is one of those plants. It thrives on disturbance, but some people consider it weedy. I think it's quite showy. You see it in botanical gardens around the world, and it's one of those plants discovered or collected on the Lewis and Clark expedition. I'll show you right here why it's called snow on the mountain. If you take this bract and you picture that green part as the peak of a mountain, you can see it is covered in dense snow, a big snowpack on the snow on the mountain. Now, one of the main characteristics of plants in the Euphorbia family is that they contain milky sap. I've got a leaf right down here. I just pulled off the stem and you can see that sap oozing out. Now, some people have an allergic reaction to the sap of the milkweeds or the Euphorbia plants. This one doesn't particularly do any harm to my skin, but just the same, if you're handling any of the plants in the Euphorbia family, it's probably a good idea to wear some gloves. Now, this summer I've had several gardeners assume that because snow on the mountain contains milky sap, that it is a source of food for the monarch butterfly caterpillars. Well, that is not true. There are a number of plants that have milky sap but do not belong to the Apocynaceae, or the butterfly milkweed family of plants. Right back here I've got one of those. This is an Asclepias, a true milkweed, Asclepias syriacus, and it's in a totally different plant family. But you can see when I tear the leaf, you can see that milky sap coming out. This is one of the plants that the larvae of the monarch butterflies feed upon. Well, if you're interested in growing snow on the mountain in your garden in the fall, just drive around the back roads, wherever you see this plant growing, and look for these seed pods up at the top here. The capsules are 3-segmented. If they're green, they're not quite ripe. If they're brown, they're starting to ripen. Just collect those, sow those in the spot where you want them to come up. They'll come up next spring and the spring after that, and you design by elimination. Just take out the ones you don't want. But snow on the mountain, one of our native annuals, again, not a food source for the monarch butterfly caterpillars.
We hope you enjoyed this video. It's part of our Oklahoma Gardening YouTube channel. You can also find even more videos on our OK Gardening Classics YouTube channel. And join us on social media for great gardening tips, photos, and discussion.